The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and regret, the kind that clings to your skin and won't let go. My twin brother, Eli, lay motionless under the sterile white sheets, his face bruised but still infuriatingly perfect, even in pain. I'd always been the shadow to his light, but now I was about to step into his life and his lies. We were identical, Eli and I, down to the freckle on our left cheek. But our worlds couldn't have been more different. He was the golden boy, the charming assistant to Alexander Kane, the icy CEO of Kane Enterprises, a tech empire that ruled New York's skyline. I was Jamie, the barista with paint-stained hands and a knack for fading into the background. But when Eli's car accident left him in a coma, his desperate plea echoed in my mind. Don't let Kane fire me. Take my place. Just for a while. How could I say no to the brother who'd always been my anchor? The first day at Kane Enterprises was like stepping into a lion's den wearing someone else's skin. Eli's tailored suits felt like a costume. Too crisp. Too confining. I memorized his schedule. His passwords. His coffee order black. No sugar. Like his boss's heart. Alexander Kane's office was a fortress of glass and steel. And when I walked in, his piercing gray eyes locked onto me like I was prey. You're late, Elias, he said, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. I swallowed the urge to correct him. I wasn't Eli. But I had to be. The morning passed in a blur of emails and meetings where I nodded and prayed no one noticed I was drowning. Kane's presence loomed, his cold efficiency both terrifying and magnetic. He moved like a storm, all power and precision. And every time he barked an order, I felt a strange pull in my chest. Was this how Eli survived him? By staying invisible? I wasn't sure I could. By noon, I was sweating through Eli's silk shirt, fumbling through a presentation I barely understood. Kane's gaze never left me, dissecting every word, every gesture. You're off today? He said, leaning back in his chair, his tone low and dangerous. What's distracting you, Elias? My mouth went dry. I mumbled something about a late night, but his smirk told me he didn't buy it. He stood, closing the distance between us, his cologne sharp and intoxicating. Get it together, he murmured, his breath warm against my ear, or I'll find out what you're hiding. I should have been terrified. I was an imposter. After all, risking everything for Eli. But as Kane's eyes lingered, something reckless sparked in me. He wasn't just cold, was fire wrapped in ice. And I was already too close to the flame. That night, alone in Eli's apartment, I found his journal. Pages of scribbled fears, dreams, and a secret that stopped my heart. Eli was in love with Alexander Kane. My brother, the perfect one, was hiding a heart that bled for a man who barely noticed him. Or so I thought. The next week was a tightrope walk. I mimicked Eli's charm, his confidence, but every interaction with Kane felt like a test. He'd brush past me in the hallway, his hand lingering on my shoulder a second too long. He'd call me into his office late, his voice softer, his questions veering from work to personal. You've changed, he said one evening, pouring whiskey into 2 glasses. The city sparkled below us, a million lights mocking my deception. You're older. I laughed it off, but my pulse raced. Was he seeing Eli? Or me? Then came the gala. Kane Enterprises' annual event was a glittering affair, all champagne and power plays. I wore Eli's best suit, my nerves fraying as I navigated a sea of executives. Kane found me by the balcony, his tie loosened, his eyes softer than I'd ever seen. "Elias," he said, stepping close. "You're not yourself tonight." His hand grazed mine, and I froze. The air crackled with something unspoken, something dangerous. I wanted to tell him the truth, to shed Eli's name and be Jamie again. But before I could, he leaned in, his lips brushing mine, and the world tilted. The kiss was brief but electric, a spark that burned through my lies. I pulled back, heart pounding, guilt clawing at me. This was Eli's life, Eli's love. But as Kane's eyes searched mine, I realized he wasn't kissing Eli. He was kissing me. And that terrified me more than getting caught. The days after the gala were a fever dream. I woke each morning in Eli's apartment, staring at his ceiling, replaying Kane's kiss. It wasn't just a kiss, it was a confession, a question, a challenge. And I was still pretending to be someone I wasn't. Every time I saw Kane, my resolve crumbled a little more. He'd watch me across the boardroom, his gaze heavy with something I couldn't name. Desire. Suspicion. Both. Work became a battlefield. I was getting better at playing Eli's smile, his quick wit, but the weight of the lie was suffocating. I'd catch myself slipping, mentioning a band Eli hated or laughing too loud. Kane noticed. He always noticed. One afternoon, he called me into his office and shut the door. "Elias," he said, his voice low, "you're hiding something." My stomach dropped. I tried to laugh, to deflect, but he stepped closer, his hand on my wrist. "Don't lie to me," he said. "I know you." I wanted to scream that he didn't. He knew Eli, not me. But the way his thumb brushed my skin, the way his eyes softened at it was too much. I mumbled an excuse and fled, my heart a traitor. That night, I visited Eli in the hospital. His monitors beeped steadily, his face peaceful but distant. I held his hand and whispered, "I'm screwing this up. Eli, I'm falling for him." The words felt like a betrayal, but they were true. I was falling for Alexander Kane, and it was tearing me apart. The next blow came unexpectedly. I found an email in Eli's inbox, buried in a folder marked private. It was from Kane, dated months ago. "Elias, we need to talk about what happened. I can't keep pretending." My blood ran cold. What had happened? Had Eli and Kane been closer than I thought? I dug deeper, finding more emails, vague but intimate, hinting at a night neither of them could forget. Eli hadn't just loved Kane, he had been with him. And now I was stepping into a story I didn't fully understand. Confronting Kane was out of the question, but avoidance wasn't an option either. He started pulling me into late-night meetings, his demeanor shifting from cold to something warmer, more dangerous. One night, as rain streaked the office windows, he handed me a glass of wine and said, "You're different now. Braver. I like it." My throat tightened. I wanted to tell him everything about Eli, about the accident, about me. But fear kept me silent. Instead, I let him pull me closer, his hands framing my face, his lips finding mine again. This time, I didn't pull away. The weeks blurred into a dance of deception and desire. Kane's touches grew bolder, his words softer. He'd whisper my name, Eli's name, in a way that made my chest ache. I was living a lie, but it felt more real than anything in my old life. Yet guilt gnawed at me. Eli was still in a coma, and I was stealing his love, his life. I started visiting the hospital more, talking to Eli about Kane, about the mess I'd made. "Wake up," I'd beg. "Tell me what to do." But he stayed silent, leaving me to drown in my choices. Then came the breaking point. Kane invited me to his penthouse for dinner, a private affair with no pretense of work. The city glittered below, but all I could see was his sharp jaw, his guarded eyes, the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the world. After dinner, he pulled me onto the couch, his hands sliding under my shirt. "Elias," he murmured, "I've wanted this for so long." My heart shattered. I couldn't do this anymore. I pushed him away, my voice shaking. "I'm not Elias," I said. "I'm Jamie, his twin." The silence was deafening. Kane's face went from shock to fury to something unreadable. "Explain," he demanded. So I did. I told him about the accident, Eli's plea, my desperate attempt to save his job. I told him about the journal, the emails, the love Eli had hidden. Kane listened, his expression a storm of emotions. When I finished, he stood, pacing, his hands raking through his hair. "You lied to me," he said, his voice raw. "But you're the one I've been falling for." His words hit like a punch. I wanted to believe him, to cling to the hope that he saw me, not Eli. But doubt crept in. Was he in love with me, or the ghost of my brother? I left his penthouse that night, the city blurring through my tears, unsure if I'd broken his heart or my own. The next morning, Kane didn't call me into his office. No texts, no emails, just silence. I went to work as Eli, but the charade felt hollow. Everyone noticed the shift Kane's absence from meetings, his closed office door. I was unraveling, caught between guilt for betraying Eli and the ache of losing Kane. By the end of the week, I was ready to quit, to leave Eli's life and face the consequences. But then I got a call from the hospital. Eli was awake. Rushing to his side, I found him weak but smiling, his eyes bright with the spark I'd missed. "You did it," he whispered, gripping my hand. "You saved my job." I wanted to confess everything, the lies, the kisses, the truth about Kane, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I helped him recover, spending days by his side, dodging questions about work. He didn't know about Kane. Not yet. And I wasn't sure how to tell him I'd fallen for the man he loved. When Eli was strong enough, I brought him to his apartment. He noticed the changes, the coffee cups I'd left, the sketches I'd drawn in his journal. "You've been living my life," he said, half laughing, half hurt. I nodded, bracing for the truth. "Eli, there's something you need to know." I told him about Kane, the gala, the penthouse, the confession. His face crumpled, but not with anger, with relief. "I thought he'd never see me," he said. "But it was you he saw, Jamie, not me." Eli's words were a lifeline and a wound. He admitted he'd loved Kane from afar, too scared to act, too afraid of rejection. The emails I'd found were one-sided. Eli's hopes poured into words Kane never fully reciprocated. "He's yours," Eli said, his voice steady despite the pain. "Go to him." I wanted to argue, to insist I'd betrayed him. But he hugged me, fierce and forgiving. "You're my brother," he said. "Be happy." Finding Kane wasn't easy. He'd taken a leave from the company, retreating to his cabin upstate. I drove through autumn leaves and doubt, arriving at a secluded house by a lake. He was there, chopping wood, his shirt clinging to his back. When he saw me, his face hardened. "What do you want?" "Jamie," he asked, the name sharp on his tongue. I stepped closer, heart pounding. "I want you to know me." "Not Eli." "Me." We talked for hours, the truth spilling out me fears, my guilt, my feelings. Kane listened, his walls crumbling. He admitted he'd suspected something was off, but hadn't wanted to believe it. "You were different," he said. "Real. Vulnerable. I fell for you. Not him." His hand found mine. And this time, when he kissed me, it was my name he whispered. "Jamie." The weeks that followed were a new beginning. Eli returned to work, reclaiming his life with a strength I hadn't seen before. He and Kane rebuilt their professional bond. No trace of resentment. Kane and I thought we built something else. Quiet dinners, long walks, moments where I didn't have to pretend. The world wasn't always kind. Whispers followed us. Judgments from those who didn't understand, but we faced it together, hand in hand. Looking back, I'd taken Eli's place to save him, but I'd found myself instead. Love wasn't just the spark between Kane and me. It was the bond with my brother, the courage to be honest, the strength to choose my own path. As I stood with Kane by the lake one evening, his arm around me, I realized the greatest act of love wasn't pretending to be someone else's seat, was daring to be me.